Welcome to this video lecture of our series on organizational behavior. Today we study about a concept that is often felt but not always fully understood, that is attitude. In the professional world, we frequently hear that attitude is everything, but what does that actually mean from a psychological and managerial perspective? Over the next hour, we will dissect the meaning of attitude, analyze its core component, explore its characteristics, and discuss why it serves as a critical strategic asset for any modern organization. Let's begin by defining our roadmap for this session. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand about the definition, and you can define attitude using various psychological frameworks, identify and explain the ABC model, the three core components of attitude, and third one that analyze profound impact of employee attitudes on organizational health, and the fourth one to distinguish the unique characteristics that define how attitude are formed and maintained in the organization, and the last one that you can understand the mechanism through which attitude influence workplace behavior. To understand attitude, we must look its beyond to its common uses. Attitude is a relatively permanent learned predisposition to respond favorably or unfavorably toward an object, person, or event. Every person has their unique own attitudes, how they are reacting on different object, different person, or different event. So key element of attitudes are learned through experience. Evaluation in nature provides consistency in responses. It means attitude creates predictability in behavior. Every person has their own unique characteristics and unique attitude. That is the predictable how they are responding in every person or event or object. To deepen our understanding, let's look at how leading scholars define this construct. According to Byrne, offers the simplest view, attitudes are likes or dislikes. According to Engel, it expands on this, calling it an overall evaluation that allows for consistent responses. And third one, Gordon Allport, a giant in social psychology, describes it as a mental and neural state of readiness. Allport emphasizes that attitudes are organized through experience and exert a dynamic influence on our responses. According to Thurston, focuses on the emotional aspect, defining attitude as the degree of a positive or negative aspect that associated with a psychological object. And the last one, Robbins, according to him, it brings it into the management fold, noting that attitudes are evaluating statements, either favorable or unfavorable, concerning object, people, or events. When we synthesize this, we see a common thread. Attitudes are learned, they are evaluative, and they act as a readiness to respond. Most modern social psychologists agrees that an attitude is not a single thing but a complex structure made of three interconnected parts. We call this ABC model. In this model, we can see the affective, A for affective, B for behavioral, and C for cognitive. It is related with the feeling, B it means behavioral, it related with the action intentions, and the cognitive which beliefs and thoughts. Understanding these three parts is essential for any manager trying to influence workplace culture. Let's break this one by one, starting with foundation, the cognitive components. These components work together to shape responses. The cognitive component consists of the belief, opinion, knowledge or information held by a person. It is the thinking phase of an attitude. For example, if you say, I believe discrimination is wrong, you are expressing a cognitive evaluation. In a workplace setting, these beliefs are often learned. If an employee believes that hard working is the only way to get ahead in the company, that belief forms the cognitive base of their attitude towards their job. It is essentially a value statement. While this component sets the stage, it is often seen as a most clinical or intellectual part of the attitude. However, it is the precursor of something much more powerful, the emotional reaction. Affective component. The affective component is the emotional or feeling segment of an attitude. This is where the attitude gains its charge. If you believe a colleague is taking credit for your work, you feel likely anger or resentment. This affect is what we mean when we talk about liking or disliking something. Interestingly, researchers can actually measure this component through physiological indicators like blood pressure or skin responses. Because this is the emotional core, it is often the strongest part of the attitude. The more frequent your direct experience with someone, the stronger the affective component becomes. Think about this. Can you truly change someone's mind if their emotions are set against you, even if you provide them with logical facts? Probably not easy, because the affective component often overrides the cognitive one. Finally, we reach the behavioral component. This refers to an intention to behave in a certain way towards someone or something. It is the outward manifestation of our thought and feelings. If an employee feels dissatisfied because they believe they are underpaid, they may respond by complaining, requesting a transfer, or decreasing their productivity. This is the behavioral outcome. It is important to note that managers usually see the behavioral component first. We infer an attitude by observing how someone acts. If a team member is consistently supportive of a new female manager, we infer a positive attitude toward women in leadership. We measure this through observation or by asking about intention. Before we move on, let's recap. We have defined attitude as a learned, stable predisposition to respond to our environment. We have also explored the three-part structure. Cognitive, it means what you believe. Affective, it means how you believe. And behavioral, it means how you intend to act. These three works in tandem. If they are out of alignment, we experience internal tension. Now, why does all of this matter to an organization? Why should a CEO care about the feelings of their staff? So, let's explore the strategic importance of employee attitude. Employee attitudes are not just personal feeling, they are strategic organizational assets. They act as a barometer for the health of company. Attitudes reflects how employees perceive their work, their leaders and organization's culture. When attitudes are positive, they drive job satisfaction, commitment and what we call organizational citizenship behavior. That's when employees go above and beyond their formal duties to help the team. However, when attitudes turn negative, they act as a early warning sign for underlying problems like poor leadership or inadequate compensation. What happens when an organization ignores declining attitudes? The results are often financially and operationally devastating. Negative attitudes manifest as workplace disruption, such as strikes or intentional work slowdown, withdrawal behavior, including high absenteeism or turnover, which force the company to spend more on recruitment and training, and performance issues like low morale leads to reduced productivity, inferior product quality, poor customer service. In severe cases, a toxic human climate can lead to employee left and a total breakdown of trust. This doesn't just hurt internal operations, it damages the organization's reputations and bottom line. Conversely, favorable attitudes are highly prized. High employee satisfaction combined with high productivity is the hallmark of successful organization. Employees with positive attitudes are more creative, more resilient in the face of change, and more likely to provide the kind of service that builds customer loyalties. So, how does management foster these attitudes? It requires a supportive organizational climate, one that values open communication, recognizes performance, and ensures fairness. Leadership style is the key here. Transformational leaders who inspire trust can literally reshape the attitude of the team. To summarize this section, attitudes are a lens through which employees view their work. Positive attitudes act as a catalyst for excellence, while negative attitudes act as a toxin that can erode profitability. Now, let's ask a reflective question. If an employee is highly skilled but has a consistently negative attitude, is that employee a net gain or a net loss for the team? Most modern managers would argue they are a loss because attitudes are contagious. This leads us to our next major topic. What are the fundamental characteristics that make attitudes what they are? The first characteristic is that attitude are always directed towards something. We call this the focal point of or the object. This could be tangible like a computer system or a motorcycle. It could be abstract like the concept of social justice or ethical behavior. It could be individual or group based like your boss or a specific profession. Or it could be action oriented like your attitude towards recycling. The nature of the object dictates how the attitude is formed. For a product, your attitude might be based on utility. For a social group, it might be shaped by cultural stereotypes. In a company, employees have attitude towards specific policies, and those attitudes drive how they follow or ignore those policies. Attitudes are not just yes or no. They exist on a spectrum. We measure them using three dimensions: direction, degree, and intensity. Direction: is it positive or negative? Do you like it or dislike it? Same thing about degree. This is the magnitude. Do you slightly like it or do you strongly like it? About the intensity, this is the strength of your conviction. How certain are you? Here is an interesting distinction. You can have a high degree of preference but low intensity. For example, you might strongly prefer a certain brand of coffee, but if the soap is out of it, you don't really mind switching. However, if your attitude towards honesty is high intensity, you will not compromise it regardless of the situation. High intensity attitudes are hardest to change. Attitudes are not isolated, they are part of an organized internal structure. Attitudes are organized system where centrality, stability, and generalizability. About the centrality, some attitudes are central to who you are. These are tied to your core values like honesty or equality. About the stability, attitudes tend to stay the same over time. We don't wake up loving our jobs and go to bed hating them without a major causes. Generalizability, our attitudes can spread. If you have a positive attitude towards one product of a brand, you likely have a positive attitude towards their other products. This structured nature means that if you want to change one attitude, you often have to address the entire system of beliefs it is connected to. Perhaps the most important characteristics for managers and educators is that attitudes are learned. They are not part of our DNA. We acquire them through direct experience. You used a product and it worked well. Socialization, where you grew up in a family that valued hard work. And the observation, you watch a leader handle a crisis with grace and you developed a positive attitude toward that leadership style. And media and education, where the news and formal training shape our views on global and professional issues. Because attitudes are learned, they can be unlearned and modified. This is the foundation of all organizational training and corporate culture initiatives. Finally, we must recognize that attitudes influence behavior. They don't predict it perfectly. A positive attitude toward teamwork makes you more likely to collaborate, but other factors like time pressure might interfere. Furthermore, attitudes are subject to change. While they are stable, they are not permanent. New information, persuasive communication, or a powerful personal experience can shift an attitude. This is why leadership communication is so vital during organizational changes. If you provide enough evidence and emotional support, you can move a team from a negative attitude to a positive one. As we conclude today's lecture, let's synthesize what we have covered. We have seen that an attitude is a learned, stable predisposition to respond to an object in a certain way. We dissect the ABC model, noting that of our thought, feeling and behavioral intention from a cohesive unit. We explored how these attitudes can act in a strategic assets for organizations, influencing everything from daily productivity to long-term sustainability. Finally, we examine the characteristics of attitudes, how they have direction and intensity, how they are structured and most important, how they are learned and can be changed. It reflects on your own workplace and university. Can you identify you can you identify an attitude you hold that has high intensity? How does it affect your daily actions? Understanding these dynamics first, who can shape a positive and productive environments? Thank you. I hope this video lecture on attitude in organizational behavior has provided you valuable insights.